very liberal group.
These presentations. I'm going to close this first, right?
Good evening. I'd like to call this special meeting of council to order. Note that all members of council are present. Any disclosure of pecuniary interests? I would like to declare pecuniary interests on agenda item 4.2, legal issues staffing.
And I would like to do the same there. Item 4.2.
Okay,
Legal issues staffing.
so noted. We'll have the clerk note that. I will turn the meeting over to the deputy mayor. To approve the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Chason, seconded by Councillor Reese. Resolved that the agenda for the special meeting council scheduled for Thursday, February 18, 2021 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Move into closed session at 2:01.
So thank you.
Oh, wait. I have to mute.
We'll carry on with our meeting to item number 5, a delegation, a presentation from Tulloch Engineering on the school safety zone project. And is it John McDonald? John, welcome, and the floor is all yours.
Just gonna let this light up.
Yeah. That way I can kind of see.
Did you want that to change?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm going to slide down.
Over the next.
Okay.
Oh, that was a good presentation, thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for inviting me here. I've had the pleasure of doing a few meetings and presentations like this remotely by Zoom, and it is much nicer to be able to come back and see everybody face to face. It's much more personal. I get better. And I think that's the main reason why we do these, is we want to hear your thoughts. And now is the time to catch anything. Right now it's just lines on a piece of paper. So again, appreciate the invitation. My name is John McDonald. I'm a project manager in the Tulloch Sioux office. I've been a professional engineer since 2008. I graduated from University of Ottawa in 2003. Please don't hold that against me, but I am a northern boy from Dewey, living just north of Sault Ste. Marie originally, and reside now in Sault Ste. Marie. I got to give a big thanks to Mr. Beach for all his help. His knowledge of the infrastructure here in Wall is invaluable. So I want to say thank you. The environmental assessment process, I am going to go through this section really quick. I'm sure all of you are well aware of the provincial requirements of the municipal cost environmental assessment and why we do it, and the process that we follow. In a nutshell, to summarize, the Municipal Engineers Association, in conjunction with Consulting Engineers of Ontario and numerous other organizations, all got together and developed a document or a framework that municipalities, consultants can easily follow as a nice step-by-step method on how to comply with the Environmental Assessment Act when planning a project. As I kind of said, the Class EA, and that's the document is called the Class EA document. It allows municipalities to plan, design, construct, maintain, rehabilitate, or retire municipal road, generally anything to do with your infrastructure. It gives us the framework to be open, transparent, thorough, and ensure that there's no detrimental effects to the environment. So there is a wide range of projects that municipalities undertake, many varying not only in just size, but also scope and breadth. As such, they kind of group them into, there used to be 3 different levels. Now they've split that into 4. So we have a Schedule A, which is generally your maintenance, normal maintenance, where you don't need approval. It's an everyday thing. It's run-of-the-mill stuff. The Schedule A+, which is the newly added in 2007. I say new, it's new to me, or the newest one of all, are exempt from Part 2 of the Act. So Part 2 of the Act was the mechanism that, under the environmental assessment, that if somebody had an objection to the project, for various reasons, it could be harm to fish, harm to noise pollution, etc., that they could file a Part 2 order, formerly called a bump up, to the director, and the director could then decide whether or not to elevate it to a full-blown environmental assessment or an environmental assessment act, or dismiss it, and the project could proceed. Before they get to that point, obviously there's a bunch of procedures where the municipality and consultants would meet with the objectors and try to come to some common ground and resolve that. But the key thing with the Schedule A and Schedule A plus is that they're exempt from that Part 2 order of the act. So it's essentially, it's a pre-approved project. That provided council is good with it and it passes, and it can proceed to the next phase. Schedule B is more complex, with Schedule C being the most complex of all three. Again, these generally are expansions, improvements, new type projects. It is important to note that the E8 Act and this process is outside of the Planning Act. So if you were to do a new subdivision or something, that process is planned and designed through the Planning Act, whereas municipal infrastructure projects are through the Environmental Assessment MCEA process. So as I alluded to previously, the MEA document has a list of schedules that defines, depending on what the project is and what the scope is, it tells us what schedule that we have to follow. Two items apply to us. One being item 19, which essentially it's a reconstructed road or other linear paved facilities will be the same purpose, use, capacity, and at the same location. We're not winding the road, right? Essentially for us is we're repainting lines, replacing infrastructure. And the second being the installation of traffic control devices, provided that it's less than 9.5 million, it's a Schedule A. The A plus is the most severe, therefore we go to the A plus process. So to conclude, this is a exempt project under Part 2 of the Act. So it is at the discretion of council, and there is no opportunity to pop up if nothing. Having said that, if there is objections, we do our best to resolve them, tweak, go from there. So you're probably wondering, what do we have to do in order to follow Schedule A plus? Quite simple. We have to do phase 1. We get through phase 1, we go to phase 5, which is implementation. So essentially it's identify the problem, the opportunity, and do our design, do our analysis, proceed to phase 5. I apologize for this being so small. There was no way I could get this bigger. I do have it memorized. Identify the problem and opportunity. The problem is municipality has identified that improving pedestrian safety in the area is important. There is some structural deficiencies with the roadway. And quite frankly, there is a very good funding program out there right now, which you guys are in receipt of. That is very good. The second part here is, so it's essentially identify the alternative solutions, problems or alternatives to address the problems, the alternative solutions, what we're going to do. It's the planning, it's what you see up here, what we put together based on the background studies. Next, it's select the schedule, which is an A plus, and there is a little star there, which for some reason references this and also references a little part down here that brings us to the mandatory public consultation process. And essentially this is part of that public consultation process. So as part of the consultation requirements, as an A plus, we have the responsibility to consult and notify the public. Some projects are routine. The very minimum level of consultation under a Schedule A plus is this. It's discussing it in council, and technically it could proceed to construction here. That's not what we're proposing here. Our consultation plan is present the preliminary design to council, get generally your feedback from the preliminary design presented. We will be holding a public information session. It's timely that COVID has been lifted. We plan on hopefully doing that within the next 2 weeks.
Before they shut it down again.
Before they shut it down again. So notices will be going out to the public that way. It is my preference to hold it in person, but I do have to talk to city staff on how to do that. But that is my preference. We will have yet to meet with school boards, which we have to do, and also with the First Nation or First Nation. This I stole from the RFP, the scope of work. It's generally provides the scope of work that you see in front of you on the boards. I apologize to folks at home who don't have access to see the boards, but they will show up later here in the presentation. Churchill, it's designating the school zone, Churchill, Magpie, and essentially Mission Road. Reviewing, changing, trying to get a load unload zone for school buses on Boyer. Reviewing bicycle lanes and parking lanes. The best method for rejuvenating the asphalt. I'm sure some of you have noticed before the snow came that you see little round asphalt holes all through the project site. That was our coring program where we were checking thicknesses and we actually tested the asphalt. We did a lot of background work, and there will be our recommendations. It will be a shaded roof. So that's essentially removing 2 inches of asphalt. Yes, we'd like to keep the millings because those can be reused in asphalt, or B, they can be put down as some of a Class C type surface. And so that is good. That can be used.
So you're going to reduce a lot of the dust then if you're not ripping up the street completely?
Yes.
That'll be.
As far as the budget exists, we will be replacing as much curb and gutter and sidewalk as possible. Obviously, with the resurfacing, we will be probably profiling much of the roads to ensure that there is proper crosswalk. We will be replacing manhole access covers, water valve lids, and the majority of catch basins lids. That's primarily on the Magpie and Churchill. Purpose of that is the gratings on the catch basins are the wrong type for bicycles.
Will be,
and I apologize if I've missed some because I've lost my spot. Oh, pedestrian crossing. So that is something that we will be addressing. I noticed on the way into town that, and prior to, you guys are now familiar with pedestrian crossovers.
Well, we haven't used them
Actually, that's good.
I just got a question. Fully uncovered tops.
Bill, can you speak a little louder? I can hear.
Hoping for the brought some considerations like the infrastructure underground with the sewer pipes, water pipes, storm sewers. The recommendation on that.
There's, I'll come to it here in a little bit. There is some on Arnott that we will be replacing, the sanitary. The primary reason for that is that there is known issues with that sanitary sewer and other conflicts with other utilities there. The funding agreement is quite specific that it's generally limited to very minimally to underground.
But the part that you are going to do, is it covered through the funding? Or
Yes.
are we paying 100%?
No,
it's covered.
So we think that's covered.
That's good.
So how we got here, this is the summary of the recommendations. A couple of years ago, municipality retained SEMA Plus to do a traffic and school area study to improve safety, to address the problem. And in it was the summary of all the recommendations that you see. So we are recommending completing nearly all of these. You'll see as we kind of go through. So we will be considering this, or we will propose to consider this as a designated school zone with speed limit reductions to 40 kilometers an hour at designated school times. Again, pedestrian facilities, providing sidewalk along the east side of Churchill, Magpie to Park Hill. We will be providing sidewalks on both sides of Boyer, and we considering relocating the existing right-of-way, reallocating the existing right-of-way on Churchill to accommodate parking lane and bike lanes. Draw attention to that, let's circle that, keep that in the back of your brains for,
Yeah, I don't quite understand that. You're gonna explain it more after?
yes.
Okay.
Let's put a big flag there and let's
Yeah.
have a big discussion. The big red stripe through you see, that's actually a different area of town that's outside the scope of work, as just defined. The extension of the sidewalk on the south side of Magpie to Churchill. That is, to us, a no-brainer. And we are installing custom warning signs at laneway between Churchill and Regina, directing pedestrians crossing. And there will be new paintings directing. This is something, I'll bring that up later, sorry. Pavement markings, we're repainting all the crosswalks. We are changing configuration at certain ones based on the recommendations here. And I will be going through these in more detail. I know it feels like I'm rushed here, but I do have drawings. It's easier to see the drawing when I bring it up. The point of all this is to highlight the recommendations in the SEMA report, which was very well done, very well received. We agreed with all but one, which we'll get to. If you want, I can keep going with this, or again, signage and intersection control. So we want to monitor the visibility and stop sign at Spruce and Churchill, and consider installing an additional stop sign on the left side of the roadway. That is recommended. Modifying the yield control to stop. That is recommended at Boyer. Same with Magpie and Churchill. That will go to stop control. The intent of this is slow traffic. Okay. It's very, very slow, realizing this is a school zone. Churchill Avenue is remove the crossing head sign, and it's going to be updated and relocate the school area signs to the proper locations. We will be revising the parking signage along Churchill Avenue and provide parking control signs that clearly indicate the restricted areas. This may generate some comment from the public, so that is it is a consideration for us here. And we do propose designating Boyer Street as a pickup and drop-off area for vehicles and buses, while still maintaining it as a public thoroughfare, but just providing a designated drop-off area for this.
You're talking just buses or parents with cars as well? Because that would really be
Just buses.
just buses.
Just buses.
Yeah.
The problem with designating, there's not the property on municipal land to put a car lay-by area, unless you went down to one lane. The only way to do that would be go one way. And just looking at the layout of the road network, it doesn't really suit the area.
When you talked about some of the changes in signage, are you recommending removing the no parking on the west side of Churchill? I think there's some no parking there during school time. Right? Yeah.
Well, we're actually recommending complete removal of no parking.
Okay.
Or yeah, no parking on Churchill on the west
At
side.
all?
No parking at all?
On the street.
During school?
So remember I did that big flag.
Mhm.
So here's Churchill Avenue. This is the recommendation in the SEMA report. This is what Churchill would look like if you were looking north. It's 2 3.5 meter lanes, and this is the existing road width, by the way. So there would be no change to widening of the curbs. It's 2 3.5 meter vehicle travel lanes, 1.5 meter bike lanes. On the north side, you would have, or sorry, west side, you would have a 1/2 meter buffer, followed by 2.5 meter parking lane.
Okay.
We don't think that, discussion with staff, snowplow operators, this is a great solution for all. This is a recommendation in the SEMA report. I'm doing this to facilitate a good discussion here today. This is not recommended.
As for reason.
one wintertime, snow storage, snow plows, that maintains parking, cyclists, cycling adjacent to parking lanes. You run risk of the door openings.
Do I understand that people that live on that street can no longer park on the road?
That is what we're proposing
I'm just on the west side.
on the west side.
The west side of.
Or it would be the east side as well. Sorry.
Oh, both sides. Oh, yeah, because you got
And
the,
how far down Churchill are you talking about?
So this is what we're proposing. And this is why we're proposing no parking. It's because you would have cyclist lanes on both sides and going to maintain a 4.
I don't know how that's gonna go over, John.
That's a good discussion. That's why we're here today.
Yeah, well, yeah.
no, we exchange.
I lived in, at 112, sold it to a friend 40 years ago, and actually just sold it again after he passed. And, you know, the residents there, and when I lived there, you have people come over to visit, where are you gonna park? Like, you've gotta go, where would you recommend someone go? And,
They're gonna park anyway, John.
yeah.
I'll tell you that right now.
Well, they won't park in a bicycle lane. That's what's gonna be there.
Yeah, I know, but
Very.
who are you gonna stop? I mean, okay,
No, I think if you have it, you're gonna have to enforce it, and eventually they'll stop if they paid for enough tickets, but
Yeah.
Who's gonna
certainly I
enforce it?
see that as a significant, because if even you look at some of those houses, some of the driveways, the one I used to own, there's basically room for only one car.
Yeah.
And then 3 vehicles associated with, so you, yeah, we'll definitely have a heated discussion on that.
that's gonna be really,
And that's no parking, that's gonna be around the clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have a bicycle lane there.
Yeah, but
You know,
you're
people-
not gonna need the bicycle lane in the wintertime. You know, you've accommodated a lot by putting in the sidewalk on the east side of the street. So certainly, one of the things I was hoping for was that those residents would not be stuck with that no parking on their side of the street by trying to move the traffic safely on the east side.
cause I go down Churchill all the time, there's all these cars on the road. All this.
And how far down, John, were you talking about? Would it stop at a certain point?
Essentially, it stops at the bottom of the hill. The road actually narrows up there.
Yeah, no, but going towards Mission Road.
It goes right out to Mission Road. We
Was
want to
it-
connect the cycling.
What about
Well,
the
see,
funeral home?
then you have the funeral home,
I was just gonna
and
say.
you have parking on both sides of the street up quite a ways.
Is there
Past
anything,
Park Hill, whenever there's,
Yeah.
because they don't have near accommodate,
is there any way we could change any of that?
This, as of right now, it's just lines on the paper.
yeah.
Okay,
And that's the reason why we're here today. As good as I am at drawing lines on paper, you guys know your constituents.
We have a 2-way bike lane on one side?
No.
Can't do that?
You can, it's not recommended. You have a big buffer area, and it's got to be raised median.
2-way.
And your snowplow driver.
Well, you're gonna kill you either way, because he's gonna plow one side in.
Ideally, in the perfect world, we could shift the road over and actually get a multi-use path on one side. But we just want the property and the funds to move it.
what's, I'm not following you, John.
It's a separate bike path / combination sidewalk bike path, 10 feet wide.
Can we do that on the east side? Is that our
Right on
property?
the property.
The property there? That'd be ideal.
Not like that?
We could explore an option giving an easement off of the
That's
distance.
what I was saying next, yeah.
In terms of timeframes and stuff, I'm not sure on that, but it's worth a discussion.
I think it go into the second phase, second year or two. Because that would be like a bike walkway type of on the east side would solve the problem. And that'd be ideal.
We're gonna have big discussion.
They've been asking for that for a long time anyways.
And there's already can be it's gonna be a bylaw once this is all done, it's gonna become a bylaw that we follow. But on our table, you mentioned the funeral, that should be, let me say, go ahead for the funeral. That would.
Yeah, but your kid drives on the bicycle and runs into the back of the car. What's gonna happen?
Mhm.
That's what-
Count your
Yeah,
friend.
I think,
You either have it or you don't have it. There's no in between that.
Hey,
That's when you're with the business.
oh, absolutely.
As a point, just a strictly devil's advocate, and I'm no way advocating one way or the other. The no parking prohibition in the wintertime. That's, do you guys have that?
Yeah, just after 10 or after midnight? Yeah, we do, we do, yeah, cars are supposed to be off the street. From actually end of October till, or middle of October till the end of April.
May.
We basically-
when you think about it, our school zones are only open for about 2 months, eh? September?
Well, September to June.
Yeah, no, but I mean, and no parking is on from October till May, and the kids go to school September till June, so it's only 2 months for the kids. Like,
It's not the school zone that's facilitating this, it's bike paths.
okay,
And the reason I raised the snow and the winter parking is the single car parking in some of the driveways on the west side of the church.
Plus, they're sticking out in the sidewalk all the
Yeah.
time. Need the big trailer, which is on the end of the curb.
Mhm.
So we will continue with our discussion with the school board, and we'll see if that's not a viable option.
yeah,
That, you know what, and if we decide to plow that, just say if we decide, it's a lot easier for that guy on the machine because he's got somewhere to put the snow. You know what I mean, just drive down and put the snow on the east side again. If you were decided to, I'm saying.
then we'll get parents that don't want any snow, they want sidewalks open.
What's that?
The parents want the sidewalks open.
Well, it's gonna be the whole thing, it's gonna be a combination. Bike lane or a pathway, I guess.
But once they take the machine down that new sidewalk, they have to blow the snow towards the road because to the right will be private property. So that you're gonna have a narrow opening for the sidewalk, and then you're gonna have a snowbank, and then an approval, I imagine remove that every now and again, but it will build up for a while.
On the east side.
Yeah, yeah, because you're not gonna blow it into people's yards.
No, there won't be any yards.
People are used to the fact now that that's all of their yard, which is really long,
There's no
13,
yards.
14 feet.
Yeah,
that
it's ours,
belongs
yeah.
to the municipality, they're gonna put a sidewalk there and
But if you go on the east side, there's no yards.
Yeah,
yeah, there is.
Yeah, there will be some.
Yeah, no.
At the other end, there's some.
The
Yeah, I
bike,
don't know what you do there.
No, we're
That's
talking
another
about
problem.
the 4 or 5 houses between
Yeah.
Park Hill and,
Boyer.
Boyer, not Boyer,
oh, wow. Am I seeing the address?
these ones right here,
Park Hill and Darwin.
the bike.
Darwin.
right here.
Yeah, that's another issue, yeah.
Park Hill and Darwin. That's where you'll have to blow the snow
Another
towards
issue,
the road.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's easy up to the school.
Uh-huh. School would be no issue, you could,
So there is some challenges.
okay, yeah.
We all see that. We will explore the multi-use path with the schools.
Mhm.
We will take a good look at the 4 houses on the east side of Churchill. We'll also present this to the public. Again, it's just lines on paper. It's not set in stone until we actually go over for tender, right? So, that's something
I
that
sat
we
one
will-
morning in my car in my friend's house at 112 Churchill, because we had parents and the schools were concerned about, the safety issue and the traffic, and 7 people came off Churchill Avenue to go to the school, and 2 of them were teachers. And, I was surprised how little traffic there actually was. It was more traffic came from across, the other side and across the schoolyard to get to Ecole. I think, having the additional sidewalk and clearing the sidewalk does major things for school safety and accommodation. you know, if you try to balance both and try to be fair to the residents with regards to the parking, then, you know, I don't know if I would consider the bicycle lanes in order to at least allow the residents to be able to, you know, you think about just everyday life, you know, you have family in town, someone pulls over to visit you. Like, where would someone go park? If they wanted to go to any of those houses, where would they would have to go on Darwin and park on Darwin and walk over?
Yeah, but you might do that at 40 below.
Well, it's just,
So what was your recommendation for not doing it this way?
Yes.
Why is that?
In my humble opinion, it's a Toronto, Ottawa, London solution. It was before I went to University of Ottawa. These were all down the private market where I went to school and walked every day. I don't know how well it would work up here. I haven't seen it up here. I haven't seen it north of there.
Yeah, but you'd only have parking on one side of the road anyway.
Yes, we have parking inside. This is not out of the question by any means. Like, this is worth a discussion. It's,
yeah, this solution with parking on the west side of Churchill. I think the choice would be between that and basically put in the sidewalk and just keep the 2 lanes of traffic. And
Yeah.
to me, that's where.
I mean, the kids all drive on the sidewalk anyway.
What we'll do is we will present both. And I will gladly get back to you, Council, and Dan and Kathy here with a report. And when we come back and see you in 4 weeks' time, we will finalize and check this box.
That would allow more traffic on the street, but you know, our streets are so wide. It's not much different than driving around the streets in other communities where they're not as wide as Ottawa.
And this is really only applicable in summertime as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is what I like about that, because you're not penalizing all of those residents with no parking in front of their house for 12
You'd have
months.
a real hard time.
In the wintertime, when you need the space for the snow, you've got it.
And just to clarify, it won't be me having a hard time.
Yeah. And the other
Oh,
thing,
you haven't had the meeting yet.
and you talk about it, you know, this applies, but in summertime, there's 2 months where they're not there as well. So your traffic is significantly reduced.
You're the plow supervisor here.
I know,
How do you feel?
I don't like the bike lanes on the side.
You don't like the bike lanes?
I do like this.
You do like this?
Yeah, because you are gonna get a lot of feedback from the residents on Churchill.
This plan here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this works for the parking situation.
Yeah.
And you get your bike lanes. And you don't have to impede the high school property. So you don't have to go there either.
So we'll present this as the preferred.
Yeah.
We'll show everybody the other one. And if what I'm hearing, it's probably going to lean this way anyway. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Well, I think it's kind of,
but again, we'll gather that data. We'll provide you a proper report here at the end of it once we get feedback.
Yeah, and if say we went with something like that, I wouldn't start the bicycle lane. I would want to make sure that there's parking on both sides of the road down at the corner near the funeral home. Even if you start the bicycle lane after
Yeah, because
Park
it's
Hill.
packed there.
It's something to think about.
Connected to
Yeah.
the Mission Road, but
To keep back
And
there,
that's not
because
gonna move. from
because
Is
here.
it
both sides
possible-
are usually
Sorry.
there's parking. I mean, we haven't seen it for a year or so because of COVID, but then again, I guess you also,
How'd you
the
think that?
other thing we have to consider is it's pretty treacherous sometimes when you're trying to get around the corner.
you're just,
It's just enough room for 2 vehicles to get by once you do have the parking. So
Yeah.
certainly a discussion there.
Yeah, that's,
Is
it's not
it
really-
possible to have the bike lane closer to the curb and the parking a little bit further out, closer to the traffic, rather than, oh, you can't?
That's MTS is not.
That'd be dangerous.
So how?
I'm just thinking of children darting in and out between cars.
That,
There's
yeah,
no-
that's the 0.5 buffer.
Mhm.
So we'll
Not a
skip
wall
that. We'll
solution,
skip that one.
Just might be the wall solution.
Again, we're trying to fit a 3-foot by 4-foot poster on an 8.5 by 11 PowerPoint presentation. That's what you see in front of you. That is the scope of the project of what we're defining the school zone. Accordingly, it will be signed, posted for the reduced speeds and to advise motorists that they are in a school zone.
So all of those streets will be 40
Resurfaced.
kilometers,
Yes.
or just Churchill?
No, all of them.
All of them, okay.
And the bike lane will only go.
Oh,
to
I'm sorry,
Churchill?
not Meg.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not Meg.
Not-
Not with Magpie west of Boyer. South of Boyer, sorry.
That's funny.
I'm
because
sorry, I forget.
That's a school zone too on Magpie.
Right here, yes.
That will not be.
This right here is the limit of school zone.
Yeah,
Right here is the limit of the school zone.
uh-huh.
And right here is the limit of the school zone. Once you come around the
Oh,
corner.
so all those are all 40 kilometers. Well, I should be traveling 40 anyway. I just hate 50. Well, you got an extra stop sign, I can tell you real quick.
This is where we were going to get into the nitty gritty of Churchill Avenue, but we've done a good job of that already.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
The bike lanes, are they only on Churchill Avenue?
Churchill and Magpie.
And Magpie?
Magpie is proposed same cross section as Churchill.
Are you talking about no parking on Magpie as well?
How about when you turn the corner between the side of the high school to go down to the both schools? There's no bike lane there? What's that called? Go down Magpie,
It's Arnett.
Arnett.
Arnett, yeah, when you turn off of the Arnett.
No.
So that's the main drag to go to the schools with the bikes.
Yeah,
That was not a recommendation in the Signage.
And you're talking about putting a stop sign on Boyer at Arnett, where there's a yield right now?
Right here, yes.
Yeah. No, down, across from the high school, right there.
That is a stop sign.
A stop, yeah, that's good. You don't know how many people think that's the
Oh.
right of way,
yeah.
that they just zip right through. You could be coming down Arnett, you have the right of way, but someone coming down Boyer just carries on.
Yeah.
It's just the little angles of the turn.
Yeah.
That just throws it off, so. You'll need one of those great big signs, where it says new.
Yeah. Geez, yeah, throw a couple of those in, John.
So just to kind of jump back here, yield control. This is proposed stop sign here. No, I'm sorry, PXO crossing.
Where are you?
This will be stop only. So Churchill, it won't be a stop on Churchill, but it will be a PXO,
What's a PSO?
pedestrian crossover.
Thank you.
I have a slide on that coming up.
The lighted as well.
The warrants actually are no, but I think we should. I think they're fantastic. Whether or not we actually go the arm overhanging the road, again, the warrant's not there. Just the flasher on the stand is good. Four-way stop here, and another PXO here at Magpie and Churchill. The gray areas here are proposed new sidewalk. We have those. We will also be replacing deficient sidewalk as we come across.
Are you going up Churchill?
Yes,
Oh, I live on the top of Churchill, just by land.
You're right at your doorstep, and then they'll stop.
You pay high schools more taxes.
What's your experience with traffic patterns in the community? Once you make some significant changes like this, the whole idea here is to slow down traffic and make it safer, and it will do that. But Churchill has been like, like a freeway to the
Yeah.
other end of town kind of thing. So you're gonna end up changing that. And I know even this summer with the construction on Mission Road, the people taking Superior Avenue to just get out and around, get down to Tim's or wherever out of town, there was significantly more traffic, and, you know, I have a few comments from neighbors about that. This will, excuse me, this will probably do that as well, to a certain extent, but it's kind of hard to find a shortcut around this. You're pretty well gonna have to stay in Mission Road, and yes, if you want to get up to uptown or to, you know, north end of town, but
Yeah.
you figured the best way would be to stay on Mission Road, which is designed to handle the traffic moving like that. So
I'll be glad to see the traffic slow down.
yeah,
I go
Yeah,
on
for
that,
sure.
that's where I go up to.
I find a big difference in the night ride is when you drive down back in the summer, it's all you see is boats. There was a boat side of the street all the way up to Mexico. There's going to be backyards.
There's lots of driveways on my highway.
That's all.
Long
over town,
driveways.
actually.
yeah. See, that's actually a consideration. I know there's a few streets in town that come summertime, the trailers and the boats and everything get out on the road. So if you do have, had no parking, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. But if you do have parking and you're trying to create both those bicycle lanes and everything else, what's that going to look like? And then actually, we haven't seen the details on, are you talking on Magpie too, just parking on, if right now you're saying no parking, but if you went with the design that we looked at earlier, would you be looking at parking just on one side? If we took the same, the two bicycle lanes, 2 lanes of traffic and a parking area?
To be frank, I haven't looked at that. We followed the recommendations in the SEMA report.
Okay,
So I would try to recite it from memory, but I'd be afraid I. There was a consideration of bicycle lanes on Magpie.
Because that ties in with the
Ties in
main
Mission
drag.
Road.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
Makes
so,
sense.
without us going through, it's the purpose of all that was to tie the school zone in with the cycling on Mission Road,
yeah,
and that was the Churchill Magpie.
yeah.
Bring it around.
But Route 3 is not going to be a bicycle zone.
was that Bill, your comment? I think,
On Ross Street, there's no exit. We have the circle there.
yeah.
Yeah, those streets are.
There's Magpie, and that was designated for cycling lanes as well.
For, and no parking. I don't know how that would go.
But we have room to do what we were just talking about at Churchill there as well.
Yeah, I would have to look at the counts and obviously see a few of the traffic things to look at that. I don't think that was specifically mentioned in the SEMA report. I may be wrong. I'm sorry, but
What
I'm
kind
not
of
prepared
report
for that
is that?
question. I'm sorry.
You were saying what kind of report?
It was this, the SEMA plus. That was the traffic consultant that was hired that did this traffic
Oh.
study.
Where's he from, John?
Burlington.
I think where I've been mostly Windsor, different areas, maybe subdivisions, you only park on one side.
Really?
And they always park on the same side the sidewalk. I'm not sure what it is. I'm just trying to remember the subdivisions in Windsor. But yeah, you only park on one side.
Yeah, typically, I think majority of places up here, we use a 10-meter back-to-back at curb, and that provides for 2 lanes of traffic with 1 in front, and a little bit small switch.
Because it does deter, you gotta remember, the parking on the street is a problem too. Because you look down that hill, I'll call it new subdivision, there's mega parking on the streets.
Oh, yeah, trailers, Superior is
I
full of
guess
trailers.
like it's to the extreme on it. But as long as they got a license plate on it, nothing to do during that period. This would discourage some of that because people can move them off the street if they don't. And it gives more vision for, and safety for the bike lanes. Opens up the vision.
I really like to still see bike lanes on nighttime. I like the first one where you said not for Wawa, that's for Wawa on both places, is that possible?
I'm gonna say yes, it is possible. I do have to look.
Yeah.
And do a little bit of engineering and look to see what the warrants are.
It's like, yeah,
The Ontario traffic manual is very prescriptive.
I mean, people aren't gonna be happy that they can't park in front of their house, whoever side we pick, but there's not much we can do.
The only other item that I wanted to have a good discussion on is, I know that Mr. Councilor Kason raised, and it's with respect to some services replacement. We are looking at replacing hydrants. Their Public Works has been having issues with the sanitary sewer coming down Boyer, down Arnott up to Magpie. Despite the valiant efforts of Mr. Dureski, unfortunately the records just aren't there for the lateral records on how these schools are serviced. As such, it's our best, I think it's in everybody's best interest that we replace the sanitary laterals at property line, tie them in proper. We know we have a deficiency in the sanitary sewer farther down, are not close to Magpie. We replace the sanitary sewer going up to Magpie and provide a little redundancy and actually tie in Ross Street.
Those are in the plans already, right?
Yes.
School board might have had the original plans. I'm sure Frank would have had them at the office. They probably went to Sault Ste. Marie when we amalgamated.
But we had, the old school was going to Boyer, and the other school was going toward Churchill. So you had two times your sewer system. And now the new school, it's again. Got no tricks in there.
Yeah.
That might be one of those things. It's just what we think we have right when we get into it, and when we find it wrong.
Cost plus.
Well, we took out some pipes going to on the corner there by Arnott and Boyer, and they were, what do you call it? Were they cast iron or what kind of pipes? They were just solid with that. You couldn't, the water barely got through them.
Go fast.
Yeah. But you could always call Huron Superior and ask them if they have any old,
We've got to call in.
yeah. But,
And the transport has some French too.
yeah.
When we looked at that, they actually showed two laterals, and on one of them plans, one showed abandoned. On the other plan, it showed the other one abandoned.
Old infrastructure.
The one that was 6 inches was coming in, when we closed that, we had dirty water for probably a week when the old section school, the issues with
That's the water.
And Bill worked at the school many, many years.
I might have to pick a brain.
Ron Ivy Hill.
And Ron was the principal there. Always he ever knew.
Going back to the pedestrian crossovers, I know you guys are well versed in this, as you have them on Mission Road, even though you haven't trimmed them on. But for the benefit of the folks at home, pedestrian crossover is something that allows pedestrians to safely cross roads by giving indicates their intention to cross, advising motorists and cyclists that they have to yield to pedestrians, or that there is a pedestrian proposing to cross, and it's just a good visual warning.
What are those angles in front of the cars and the bus?
That is the designated stop blocks for where vehicles are supposed to stop.
Stop blocks. Oh, we've seen those.
It's just painted lines, it's just a visual cue of where people are supposed to stop. And there is the signage of where they're supposed to go. This is the PXO that you have on Mission Road. This is in terms of this type of PXO, it is the most prescriptive or severe for the highest traffic. As you start going down the list based on traffic volumes and pedestrian volumes, you remove the arm. Then the second thing is you actually remove the flashing light. And then you go down to essentially a stop controlled intersection.
That street's crazy. Have you ever gone there in the morning? Oh. Very busy.
Okay, so. This is gonna work.
Sure.
Well, we'll try it. This is a pedestrian crossover that we recently. I'm just trying to go to YouTube, guys.
W.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
Sue, do you think you could help?
Well, it should automatically go with the link something. But now it just said that it will be blank, which I don't understand why.
It should access the internet or YouTube on the internet. That's true. That's
Because we had the videos from the last presentations for earlier this
Mhm.
week, so I don't know why this would be. So if you just go directly to YouTube, can you get the link directly from there?
yes.
John, you know those stop signs right there with the pedestrians? How many are those going to be? How many are there going to be of those?
Two.
Just two, that's it?
Two. Yes.
And the whole project?
Yes. Both on Church Inn.
Oh, just two.
Yeah, so the reason why there's the PXOs is because those are crossings at non-stop controlled intersections.
And it's, what would I say?
If you just type PXO City Sault Ste. Marie, it's actually on Councillor Sue today. Pedestrian Crossover. It's right there. Perfect.
Yellow light, dark flash.
This was installed this on in Wellington Street.
Where's that? Volume's turned on. You can hear it. You can hear it.
How long does it take before the button kicks in?
It's almost up.
Yeah, right? We got it.
Oh,
Stop.
okay.
Solar power, they're not hardwired in. You can hardwire them if you want, but solar power works just as well.
I don't know, I've seen us have 30 days of.
Enforceable, the OVP can enforce them, I believe. If it's not, if I'm not mistaken, it's $300 fine. There is points involved.
Oh, I see the block.
That's on Wellington Street, just east of Carmen's Way.
Oh, I know that.
So it is
My girlfriend that lives
it
there.
is a high traffic roadway.
So it's that fast, eh?
I'm sorry, when I thought, I tested that out 6 times on Sunday.
Of course, it always works when I go home.
It'll work tomorrow.
It'll work tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's really all I had, as I kind of alluded to, when we were looking at the boards and during this thing, there's probably the one contentious item, and it kind of proved right.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's no wrong answer, at the same time, there's no right answer. It is what we're, in terms of cycling facilities, pedestrian safety, cyclist safety versus parking and the considerations of the residents.
Now, if you're parked, okay, I'm on the side of the street that has no parking. And if I stopped and parked there, I'd get a ticket, right?
You could, yes.
Okay.
There would be no parking signs posted. So it'd be
Okay.
no different than anywhere else in town that have no parking signs.
How far is it from those blocks to the crosswalk?
Six meters.
Meters?
So 20 feet.
Yeah, that's a long way.
It's all based on visibility over the hood. They're going to see if the peak stores.
Boy, that is, how far, that's gonna be quite a piece. Yeah, that's good.
And they work well.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
So when you talk about being on school boards, are you you're on Superior, but you've got four school boards, with French Public, French Catholic, and same with English. So you plan on meeting with reps from the school board at the schools here in Wawa, so
Wherever
the
they want.
principals and.
Wherever they want. Everybody has their own different COVID protocols. So whether or not we do it by Zoom or we come up and actually do a site walkthrough,
Okay.
we're very flexible, and that's.
I really hope that
Now,
Catholic schools,
in terms of an open house, oftentimes, like, we've had open houses and we run them like, when we have an engineered project, something like 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and 2 hours where it's absolutely empty or whatever, and if you get 50, 60 people, that's a big crowd. So if we allowed 10 people and we just broke it into sections and tried to fill the sections and you registered, you showed up, you came in, you wore your mask, you social distance, and we could, the way our community centers organized, you could walk into the curling rink, you could have it set up, and then you just keep moving and out by the main doors to the lounge. So I think it's possible, and I think it's really important to provide that outlet to people, because, and I think we need to do a lot of advertising ahead of time to let people know that this project's going to impact them. If you want your say, you better come out and have an out. It's extremely important.
Sean, I'm not sure if, I really would love to see you go to the schools, because you get to talk to the principal and you get to talk to the teachers, and you're just gonna really get a lot of ideas from them. But
My
if you go to
preference
the
is always to
school-
meet in person,
Yeah,
but it's up to them and
They have their
protocols.
protocols right now because of COVID, so.
the schools.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I meant, even one person though?
For instance, my two sons at their school, we have before care and after care at that school.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed in school. I have to drop them off.
Oh, so he's not allowed to go into
Well,
school?
it
Yeah, every school's
depends.
different.
It's up
Every-
to them I mean, we're quite willing to work with everybody, but you have to be invited to make a
Okay.
presentation. It's not something where we can say, we
Oh,
won't be
okay,
there.
that's why I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I do know that the French school would be more than happy to see something like this. And the English side too.
Yeah, we want to discuss Boyer Street with the nuts because we want to close the driveway. And we would have to fix up the other driveway for them in order to make that work. So there is a little discussion on how to
So
have.
that, yeah, that drop off. That's, okay, that's on the lawyer, on the, okay, just with articles off that, right?
Boy,
Yeah, okay.
So right now, the currently configuration of Boyer is this curb line here that actually extends out to the road. So we're essentially just putting a bulb for lack of
Oh, I
better
see,
words.
yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's good.
So when those buses pull into that zone, are they, will they be flashing their lights, or is it considered a bus stopping zone and the lights go off? So traffic stop anytime there's a bus on that street? And they don't enter?
And the door's on the right side, eh?
Doors will be on the right side, yeah.
But the kids from the high school are going to.
Gonna
get
go
out
across.
And cross, so.
Yeah.
So is the street still open when they're parked there? They won't be flashing their lights?
I can't answer that right now. I'm sorry, I don't know.
I guess that's a legal question that we'd have to run by the,
Have the conversations with them, that's.
with, and with the, probably with local police as well.
Yeah, because you
As a
take
bus
some
driver,
buses,
I know
have
in
both-
school zones, you would not.
those schools on the bus, so they'll get off there across the street to the high school. So that street will be, they
Busy.
should actually keep the traffic off there during the. I don't know how you do that.
See, at one time, I mean, we had all kinds of ways, but one time, all the buses, the front of the school there was all parking lot. And the buses pulled right into the parking lot so that they wouldn't be interrupting the traffic on Boyer. Moved. And then we had other times where the buses stayed on Boyer. And you could be sitting in your car 10, 12, 15 minutes waiting to get by because the buses didn't all arrive at the same time. So there was one would leave, but before it left, another one was there with lights flashing. So, but we'll certainly have to get that answer.
You better write it down because I don't know.
It would be in our interest to, on the parking side on Churchill, to see what Great Lakes is gonna do with that roadway, the get out or blocked off in the back. That may help the people on Churchill.
Go Regina for that? No, the laneway south.
Oh, that's just
east
the
of Regina.
hydro lines, they all cut it out now, it's all loose.
I don't agree. I think we might own them. But I don't think that would be possible to do that. It's not I mean,
Some are using it now.
Yeah,
to the
some
backyard.
people access the backyard from there. We'd have to double check on the ownership.
Then we'd have to maintain that road if you owned it. I mean, if you just opened it up.
They want to use it, they don't use it, so here
Dan,
Grass on it, but it wouldn't maintain it.
this little bump out, this bump out here,
Yeah.
is that going to create a problem for the equipment operator in the winter? It'll be very narrow coming through
Where's that?
here, those two bump outs by the school.
No, we just like to go on to Broadway here. And the two
It's not an
bumps
issue?
coming from Mission Road to Broadway.
That would be less of an issue of what we have on Broadway.
It's still there, that's gonna be,
It's a highway now. You know,
Well, I don't know, John, I certainly appreciate, I know if you have this conversation with school boards and residents, that, they will certainly get a good understanding of the project, and what we need after that is feedback. And get all that feedback and put it together and come up with a final plan. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you very much. I hope that you did get some feedback from council, and we look forward to things. Looks really good.
I do appreciate it,
It's
and I want to reiterate, that it does not hurt my feelings. Right now, this is lines on a paper. This is why we're here. This is excellent discussion, and that's it's
I
well
think
worth.
we know the people in town.
Yeah,
and, you know,
and
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you very much.
every time.
We can go all the way down to adjournment. We have a resolution, Kathleen?
We do. Moved by Counselor Reese, resolved that the meeting close at 7:26 PM.
All in favor? Carried, thank you.
That's gonna be nice though, eh?